out into this world, tiny little thing before its time, in a God for what? Girl. Yes, tiny little girl, out into this, before her time, God-forsaken hole called. No matter, parents unknown, unheard of, he having vanished, thin air, no sooner buttoned up his breeches, she, similarly, 8 months later, almost to the tick, so no love, spares that. No love such as normally vented on the speechless infant in the home. No, nor indeed for that matter any of any kind. No love of any kind at any subsequent stage. So typical affair. Nothing of any note till coming up to 60 when what? 70? Good God. Coming up to 70, wandering in a field, looking aimlessly for cowslips to make a ball. A few steps and stop. Stare into space. Then on. A few more. Stop and stare again. So on, drifting around, when suddenly, gradually, all went out. All that early April morning light, and she found herself What? Who? No! She found herself in the dark, and if not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing, so called, in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, such as the moon might cast, drifting in and out of cloud, but so dulled, feeling so dulled, she did not know what position she was in. Imagine what position she was in, whether standing or sitting, but the brain, what? Kneeling? Yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling, but the brain, what? Lying? Yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling or lying, but the brain still in a way, for her first thought was, long after, sudden flash, brought up as she had been to believe, with the other waifs, in a merciful God. First thought was, long after, sudden flash, she was being punished for her sins. A number of which then, for the proof if proof were needed, flashed through her mind, one after another, then dismissed as foolish. Long after, this thought dismissed, as she gradually realised, she was not suffering. Imagine not suffering. Indeed, she could not remember offhand when she had suffered less, unless, of course, she was meant to be suffering, Thought to be suffering, just at the odd time in her life, when clearly intended to be having pleasure, she was in fact having none, not in the slightest. In which case, of course, that notion of punishment for some sin or other, or for the lot, or for no particular reason, for its own sake, things she understood perfectly, that notion of punishment, which had first occurred to her, brought up as she had been to believe with the other waves in a merciful God. First occurred to her, then dismissed as foolish, was in fact perhaps not so foolish after all, so on, all that, vain reasonings, till another thought, long after, a sudden flash, very foolish. What? The buzzing? Yes, all the time the buzzing, so called, in the ears. Though, of course, actually, not in the ears at all, in the skull. Dull roar in the skull, and all this time this ray or beam like moonbeam, but probably not, certainly not. Always the same spot, now bright, now shrouded, but always the same spot, as no moon could, no moon, just all part of the same wish to torment, though actually in point of fact, not in the least, not a twinge, so far, then thinking, long after, sudden flash, very foolish really, but so like her in a way that she might do well to groan, on and off, writhe she could not, as if in actual agony, but could not bring herself to some flaw in her make-up, incapable of deceit, or the machine, more likely the machine, so disconnected, never got the message, or powerless to respond, like numbed, couldn't make the sound, not any sound, no sound of any kind, no screaming for help, for example, should she feel so inclined, scream. Then listen. Scream again. Then listen again. No, spares that. All silent as the grave. No part. What? The buzzing? Yes, all silent still but for the buzzing. No part of her moving that she could feel. Just the eyelids, presumably on and off. Shut out the light. Reflex, they call it. But the lids, even best of time, who feels them? Opening, shutting, all that moisture. But the brain still sufficiently, or very much so, at this stage, in control, under control, to question even this. For on that April morning, so it reasoned, that April morning, she, fixing her eye at a distant bell as she hastened towards it, fixing it with her eye, lest it elude her, had not all gone out, all that light of itself, without any on her part, so on, it reasoned, vain questionings, and all dead still, sweet silence as the grave, when suddenly, gradually, she realised, what? The buzzing? Yes, all dead still, but for the buzzing, when suddenly she realised words were... What? Who? No! She realised words were coming. Imagine, words were coming, a voice she did not recognise at first, so long since it had sounded, then finally had to admit it could be none other than her own, certain vowel sounds she'd never heard elsewhere, so that people would stare, the rare occasions, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, the long hours of darkness, stare at her uncomprehending. And now the stream, steady stream, she who had never, on the contrary, practically speechless all her days. How she survived, even shopping, out shopping, busy shopping centre, supermarket, just hand in the list with the bag, old black shopping bag, then stand there waiting, any length of time, middle of the throng, motionless, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, till it was back in her hand, the bag back in her hand, then pay and go, not as much as goodbye. How she survived. And now the stream, not catching the half, not the quarter, no idea what she was saying. Imagine, no idea what she was saying, until she began trying to delude herself. It was not hers at all, not her voice at all, and no doubt would have, vital she should, was on the point, after long effort, when suddenly she felt, well, gradually she felt her lips moving. Oh, imagine her lips moving, as of course then she had not, and not alone the lips, the cheeks, the jaws, the whole face, all those what? The tongue. Yes, the tongue in the mouth, all those contortions without which no speech possible, and yet in the ordinary way not felt at all, so intent one is on what one is saying, the whole being hanging on its words, and not only had she to come up, admit hers alone, her voice alone, this other awful thought, all long after, sudden flash, even more awful if possible, that feeling was coming back. Imagine feeling coming back, starting at the top, then working down the whole machine. But no, spared that, the mouth alone. So far, then thinking, all long after, a sudden flash, it can't go on, all this, all that, steady stream, make something of it, and her own thoughts, make something of them, all the, what, the buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, all that together, imagine, whole body like gone, just the mouth, lips, cheeks, jaws, what, tongue, yes, lips, cheeks, jaws, tongue, never still a second, mouth on fire, stream of words in her ear, practically in her ear, not catching the half, nor the quarter, no idea what she was saying, imagine, no idea what she was saying, and can't stop, no stopping it, she who but a moment before, but a moment, could not make a sound, no sound of any kind, now can't stop, imagine, can't stop the stream, and the whole brain begging, something begging in the brain, begging it all to stop. Paused for a moment, if only for a moment, but no response, as if it hadn't heard, or couldn't pause a second, like maddened, all together, straining to hear, piece it together, and the brain raving away on its own, trying to make sense of it, or make it stop, or in the past, dragging up the past, flashes from all over, walks mostly, walking all her days, day after day, a few steps and stop, stare into space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around day after day, or that time she cried, oh, the one time she could remember, since she was a baby. Oh, must have cried as a baby. Perhaps not essential to life, just the birth cry to get her going, then breathing, then no more to this. Old hag already. Oh, where was it? One evening on the way home. A little mound in Croker's acres. Dusk, sitting staring at her hand, there in her lap, palm upward, suddenly saw it wet. The palm. Tears, presumably. Hers, presumably. No one else for miles. No sound. Just the tears. Sat and watched them dry. All over in a second, or grabbing at straw, the brain, flickering away on its own, quick grabbing, nothing there, on to the next, bad as the voice, worse as it sends, all the what? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing and the beam, flickering on and off, starting to move around like moonbeam, all part of the same, keep an eye on that too, corner of the eye, all that together, can't go on, God is love, she'd be purged back in the field, April morning, sink face down the grass, nothing but the lark, so on, grabbing at straws, straining to hear the odd word, make some sense of it, whole body like God, just a mouth like maddened, and can't stop, no stopping it, something she, what? Who? No. She. Something she had to, what? The buzzing. Yes, all the time the buzzing. And the beam. ferreting around, painless so far, so far, then thinking, oh, long after, sudden flash, perhaps I knew she had to tell. Could that be it? Something she had to tell. Tiny little thing, out before its time, godforsaken hole, no love, spared that, speechless all her days, practically speechless, how she survived. That time in court. What had she to say for herself? Guilty or not guilty? Stand up, woman. Speak up, woman. Stood there, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, waiting to be led away, glad of a hand on her arm. No, this, quicker and quicker, the words, the brain, flickering away like mad, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on to the next, bad as the voice, worse as what? Something she had to tell. Yes, something that she had to tell. Could that be it? Something that would tell how it was, how she, what? Had been? Yes, something that would tell how it had been, how she had lived on and on, guilty or not, on and on to, what? Not that? Nothing to do with that? Nothing she could tell? All right, try something else. Think of something else. Oh, long after. What? Not that either. All right, something else again. So on. Hit on it in the end. Think everything, keep on long enough, then for giving back in the what? Not that either. Nothing to do with that either. Nothing she could tell. All right, nothing she could tell. Nothing she could think. Nothing she what? Who? No. She. Tiny little thing, up for its time, godforsaken hole, no love, spared that. Speechless all her days, practically speechless. How she survived. I could sudden rush out, stop the first she saw, nearest lavatory, start pouring it out. Mad stuff, steady stream, half the vowels wrong, no one could follow, till she saw the stare she was getting, then die of shame, crawl back in, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, the long hours of darkness. Now this, quicker and quicker, the words, the brain, flickering away like mad, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on to the next, bad as the voice, worse as little sense, all the what, the buzzing, and all the time something in her begging it all to stop. Unanswered, prayer, unanswered or unheard. Too faint, so on, keep on, trying, not knowing what she was trying, what? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, and the beam, poking around, painless so far, so on, keep on, not knowing what she was what? Who? No! She! What to try, no matter, so on, hidden feeling, think of everything, keep on looking up, then forgiven, back in the field, April morning, sing fit on the grass, nothing for the lark, so on,